All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. We've got huge news this week. So Ford announced they're killing off the F-150 Lightning. They took a huge financial hit, almost $20 billion. And then even bigger than that, they announced an e-rev platform for the next gen F-150.
Yeah, and I wonder if, ironically, in the process, they just saved a bunch of Ram executives from destroying their own company.
All that and next coming up. Cue the intro.
Fantastic.
Perfect. All right, guys. So yeah, big news this week from Ford. They sort of blew up the entire EV world with it. They took a massive financial hit. Like we said, almost $20 billion in losses due to this shift in EV strategy. But they didn't just come out and say, hey, we're going to lose a bunch of money. They did show off some new electrification strategy. And Casey, let's get to the punchline really quick. The big news on the F-150 front. Why don't you explain it to us?
So they're pivoting the Lightning. I think it's kind of weird to say they've killed the Lightning. They're really pivoting it to an e-rev strategy, very similar to the former Ramcharger, now ROMR. All right, it's going to be a series hybrid. It's going to be an electric truck with an onboard generator, ICE engine that is not tied to the wheels at all. And, which is a platform we've been talking about for months because of the Scout and the Ram Rev. And we've speculated that Ford might be, and GM would be doing this soon. And here we are.
Here we are.
Yeah. And so, Cody, you've had an F-150 before, probably a few in the family. And I know you're really interested. We've talked about the Scout Terra forever, the pickup truck that's coming. We talked about Ramcharger. But with this kind of news, is that something that actually gets your attention?
Does. I mean, I think range and then obviously where the build quality lands are interesting to keep the competition honest, which is where I want to be with the Scout Traveler.
Mentioned the build quality, and that's something that comes with the territory with Ford, right? So that's why it's such a big deal for them to announce that they're getting into this space, and it sort of validates the whole transition to that type of platform. We've been talking about it forever. And, I was having a conversation at dinner the other night with somebody from General Motors, and we know General Motors is actually working on this technology too. But my argument was we've lost a decade in the medium light duty truck space. Like if we had just gone this route a decade ago, we'd be so much further along. And in some ways, it feels there's some vindication, some validation to see somebody like Ford jump on this train and start to bring this type of product to market. We're going to talk a little bit here in a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about what the marketplace perception is, because we got some interesting data from Scout reservation holders. But I don't want to get too far away from this announcement for the F-150. So they issued a press release. They said 700 miles of range, which is even a little bit higher than what Ramcharger had quoted, which I think was about 690. With the battery pack and the generator, total 700 miles, sub 5 seconds, 0 to 60, massive towing capability. I mean, they're promising all the exact same things. But Casey, you wanted to speculate a little bit on what type of engine we might actually see. We know we have the 3.6 liter Pentastar V6 for Ramcharger, but what do you think Ford's going to put in this vehicle?
Yeah, so I watched all of Andre and Roman over at TFL talking about this, and they kind of had a handshake bet on whether or not it would be the 2.3 liter EcoBoost, which is a 4-cylinder, or the 2.7 EcoBoost, which is a V6 and already in the F-150 platform, right? Which I think was Roman's big point. I'm here to speculate that it's going to be neither of those for a couple of reasons. As soon as this came out, Ram has the Pentastar. They've got millions of them. It's a pretty good engine, and it's really perfect for this application. I, talked to someone that's, kind of tied in with Ford a little bit. It's important to remember that this is going to be on the next F-150 platform. So it doesn't necessarily have to be something that's in the current F-150. And I think they're going to go with the 3.3 liter V6 that they sell in the Explorer police interceptors now,
Wow.
which I
Okay.
think, you know,
Meh?
it makes a ton of sense. Forced induction doesn't really make any sense in this application to me.
No.
We've really kind of hoped that like Scout's not going to go in that direction, although I think they may end up doing that just because they're pulling from the VW family, and that's, they've got a lot of
Yeah,
forced
fair.
induction, but I don't really like it for this application. And so I hope that Ford's not going to do that. And, there aren't that many naturally aspirated engines anymore in the Ford lineup, except for like the V8s, which not good for this. That's overkill, right? So it just kind of makes sense to me. And I think it would, compete really nicely along with the Ram Rev.
Yeah, and I think that I don't like the talk about, oh, well, it's got to be a V8. They got to have two more cylinders than Ram. It's a pissing contest. I think that's completely disconnected from what this market and this buyer is, right? Like, I think the top line numbers are the most important. What's the horsepower? What's the range? What's the 0 to 60? How much all electric range am I going to get? Is it going to be smooth? Is it going to be quiet? And it just doesn't make any sense to go any bigger than the V6. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's some interesting
Yeah.
speculation. That's more details to follow soon enough, right?
That's
So
so
I'd mentioned
boring.
earlier
It's
about
boring.
consumer
What's boring?
preference, and
That's
oh yeah, what's
boring.
boring? What the V?
It's just like middle of the. I just hate that like the capitalistic market has to push you to the middle with innovation, and that just feels like the middle. Like they lost the bet on the Lightning. I get it. You got to shore up. Like, got to pay your losses. But like, I don't know. It's boring.
Hey, Tillman, I don't understand what he's talking about right now. Do you understand what he's saying?
All right, everybody, I'm gonna interrupt the podcast for just a minute and ask a favor of you. If you're still looking to do your good deed for the day or spread some holiday cheer towards the end of the year, do us a favor. Just go subscribe to the channel and you get access to all this great content. And we've got even more coming next year. We are this close to hitting 5,000 subscribers. All the stats show when you hit that mark, things really start to take off from there. Appreciate you guys being on this journey and appreciate your support. And now let's jump back to the podcast.
I just feel like the way Tesla approaches things, and even the way Scout's approaching things in the electric space is like, let's push the limit again. Ford just
Yeah,
can't do that.
well,
So are you talking about
now
the
those
move to
vehicles-
EREV or?
No, like what's speculated to be under the hood. Like, yes, go to e-rev. I support that, but I'm like, do something with it. Like, wow me. Does that make sense?
Okay. So Blandy, he wants like a free valve engine or something. Yeah.
Give me something, man. That's what
He
I'm
wants
saying.
to hire Christian Koenigsegg to build the generator
well,
for the F-150
but hang on, guys.
Lightning.
Like the Scout's not innovating from a generator perspective, right? They're going to pull from the VW parts bin, and I know Casey said he thinks it's going to be forced induction.
Maybe.
I don't think it will be. I think it's going to be pretty boring, and it's going to be back. There's going to be small displacement. You're not going to hear it. It better be out of sight, out of mind in this application, right? I think the most innovative thing that's happening from Scout is that they're building a truly dedicated off-road platform, and they're putting all this technology around it and enabling that. Now, we did talk about some market response. Some of the comments that we were starting to hear around the Scout product and the Ramcharger product was, well, these are only temporary, and things like solid state batteries are going to come along and they're going to render these technologies obsolete, and nobody's going to buy it. And I'm not buying that. And so we actually went out and we ran a little poll in the Scout community and got some interesting results, right? And I would say almost 60% of folks who have the Harvester e-rev product reserved basically told us it doesn't matter how much all electric mileage the vehicle has, I still want the ability to use the generator and to use gasoline. And we gave them options. We said 400 miles, 500 miles, 600 miles. They said it doesn't matter. There was about 20 to 30% who, if you give them 400 or 500 miles, they're okay with just going EV. But the marketplace is screaming, no, it doesn't matter. We want both. And so that's what Ford is responding to. They're seeing the same thing in their data. So, Casey, I'm going to throw a question back to you. Who's going to hit the market first? Is it going to be Ram or is it going to be Ford?
Well, let's say I think it'll be Stellantis because we're not 100% sure what's coming to market first, the Wagoneer 4xe or the Ram Rev. It seems like they've actually shown the 4xe Grand Wagoneer to media, which they haven't really done with the Ram. But regardless, so I think Stellantis will get one of these in the hands of consumers first, just because, one, I think this announcement might fire a shot across their bow, right? They've had it in the works forever. You've mentioned that their CEO has been publicly guys, it seems ready. So let's just get going and get something in consumers' hands. I think, they've got to be, oh, we lost Blaney for a minute, but yeah, they've so much further ahead. Let's get going.
Yeah, well, so now I do want to remind you that well over a year ago, Stellantis invited media to Austin to do a walk around of the Ramcharger product and put their hands on it. They didn't get to get in it, but they certainly got to see it and do a ton of video content. And that's exactly what they did a couple of months ago with the Grand Wagoneer e-rev. They did the same thing, right? They unveiled the new Grand Wagoneer. They had the Reeve sitting next to it. People could walk around and look at it, but they couldn't touch it. They couldn't open charge doors. They couldn't do anything. So we're kind of in the same spot with these guys. And they seem to just continue to kick that can down the road and say, oh, well, we'll announce probably back half of 26 for the Grand Wagoneer Reeve, and nothing about Ramcharger at all. I'm sorry. Nothing about the Ram pickup truck version. And we just can't keep up with their naming conventions. I do think they're getting a kick in the butt here, man. Tim Kuniskis, he's signed up NASCAR, he's signed up WWE. They're cramming V8s into everything. I hope this news just absolutely shocks them into action. And, he kept saying, well, we can push this off and we can still be first to market. Well, you better get your act together, because I think first mover status here means a lot for them. I don't think it means as much to Ford.
No.
Ford's the franchise with the F-150 in the market, right? They got the market. This means
And
a lot
Lightning.
to Ram. They need to win new buyers, right?
I think you're absolutely right. For the F-150, we all heard the stats. They're insane about how many get sold every month. You've got to take share from them, not the other way around. And right now, Ram's just not doing that. Straight six turbos aren't doing that. Tungsten editions aren't doing that, as cool as they are. This is a real differentiator in the market for them. And so they need, yes, they need to be first.
Could be.
Like I was saying, we're expecting this as a 2027 or the next gen F-150 platform. You might think that gives Stellantis some time, but like you said, Ford's got so much field testing with the F-150 Lightning, right? I just think if they choose to, they can move so fast. If they really want to, they can move really fast, and they could, I think part of the problem with the Ram is that they're trying to do too much with it. And if Ford says, we want to go fast, let's get, this going, and we're going to simplify the software and everything, I think they could go really quickly if they want.
Yeah, and so a point there, and Cody is back. Cody Blandy is back. We lost you for a minute.
Is back.
Sorry, guys. Starlink dropped.
It's all good.
Not everything's perfect.
So one thing to note from a manufacturing standpoint. So the facility that produces the Lightning is in Dearborn. The F-150, the main F-150 assembly line is in Dearborn. They're right across basically town from each other. They have shut down the Lightning production line. They have taken the workers off of that, and they've put them on a third shift for the regular ICE version of the F-150. They had some supply chain issues. They had that aluminum plant fire, I think in upstate, somewhere in New York, and that meant a disruption. So now they're catching up. They're trying to get a ton of trucks built, and so now they got 3 lines going. But that plant that was producing the Lightning is sitting there, and they're probably reconfiguring it as we speak, we think, or we hope. to go produce this next gen platform that Casey was talking about. So the opportunity to move fast seems like it's there. And so, yeah, that should get Ram's attention as well. Now, look, these guys are all in the same place. They know what's going on in each other's facilities. So, they're going to be very well aware. But the race is on. The race is on, and Ram has a lot more to lose than Ford does from a timing perspective, like you said. Let's switch gears a little bit, because in this adventure electric space, there was some other big news in the last week that, it runs right alongside this, right? And that's what Rivian announced from an autonomy perspective. And, they've got second mover status now here, right? Because they're following in Tesla's footsteps, at least as far as bringing true self-driving to market pretty quickly, which is, what they're kind of calling this level 2 plus, or I'm trying to remember what they called it. It's self-driving anywhere, or universal driving, something. Good God, I can't think today. Basically, for their Gen 2 platform, 3.5 million miles of hands-off, eyes-on driving. So around town, on highways, point to point, just like what Tesla's offering with FSD. Although I'm sure Cody would argue it's actually a little bit more than that. But they're trying to catch up pretty quick, and they're doing what really nobody else is doing. And I think the reason I want to talk about it is I think we're starting to draw a line in the sand between pure EV platforms, fully integrated platforms, and legacy automakers. And it's going to be a very stark difference between the two here in the next 5 years. And then the big controversy around that is that Rivian decided to do it with LiDAR, which Elon has traditionally scoffed at. And we're getting a thumbs down over here from Blandy.
And his followers agree.
His devotees agree. Why do you think? So,
Okay.
Blandy, you think that's a mistake? Why do you think that's a mistake?
It's heavy equipment. It's expensive equipment. And I'm just sitting along, guy, and you know it. And maybe it's irrational, but at least I'm willing to admit it.
So the punchline from Rivian is that they have gotten these units down in size and cost to the point where they can be integrated into the right above the driver, below the roof line, without having a big, giant rotating ball on top of the car like you see with Waymo vehicles running around Phoenix and now Dallas. So you can integrate them into the vehicle, and you've gotten to the price point where they're saying it's sub $1,000 per unit. For the vehicle. It's not 10,000, it's now sub 1,000. That's certainly something that you can put into the vehicle. And from a modeling standpoint, they're saying, well, why wouldn't we want to have a sensor that can see, can render these objects that a camera can't, at 900 feet to 1,000 feet down the road, and go ahead and build that 3D model and see things that regular vision can't see. Elon's argument, though, Cody, has been that like humans rely on our eyesight, right? Like that's been his argument the whole time.
And you can always train that.
Yeah, you could train.
Yeah,
but
everybody.
you can't train
Everybody
it to
may
see
not know
beyond certain objects.
Yeah, we might need to reset for everybody because they might not know. Like all the self-driving technology in a Tesla is based on just cameras, right? Which are light and cheap, and it's using software and all of that to more or less look at the picture and figure out what it is and make decisions. Whereas the rudimentary radar cruise control that everyone else is using uses, radar waves, and LiDAR is even more advanced than that. But there's limitations to each. I mean, I don't know. You've seen there's a video on YouTube like that Mark Rober has put out, right? That's probably got millions of views, where he essentially fools the cameras on a Tesla.
Been debunked.
It hasn't been debunked. It's just
100%.
It's extremely silly use case. Let's say
there were two things wrong
just
with
to
the way
prove
he
a
filmed
point.
it. That wasn't completely in a controlled environment.
What's the point of the video? The point, anyway.
That was the point of the video. It just depends
was the
on
point
what,
of the video. Like you
you're
see
bringing to the
everything that he
argument.
does,
No.
right? Exactly. Because Mark is a fan of Tesla. Full stop. So let's. But the point being also, like, direct lights, very bright head-on lights also can cause issues for the camera. That is not an issue for LiDAR. But look, I mean, we've been in Teslas. The self-driving is phenomenal, right? I don't know. To me, I feel like some kind of
Look, I
hybrid
got my
approach
year in
makes perfect
review.
sense.
I'm gonna derail this a little bit, but it'll come back around. I got my Tesla year in review wrapped in the app today. 20,000 plus miles in a year. Top 5% self-driving user. Pretty proud of that.
Yeah, and look, when I had the thing for a week when we did the truck swap, I fully immersed myself in the full self-driving
Yeah, you
and
did.
contributed to that 20,000 miles, and I did come to the conclusion that for a large portion of the population, once they start utilizing that technology, they're not going to go back.
That's fair.
And, I think that's where Rivian it has they've all made this decision. They all know that that's the reality. But there's only a couple of companies in existence that are structured in a way that they can go deliver this type of outcome in the near term. Tesla's one, obviously, Rivian's another, and probably Lucid. And the rest of them are a generation or two away technology wise. They're not even structured as companies to do it. They can't execute at that level. And GM has come along and said, "Oh, well, by 2028, Super Cruise they're going to move beyond just the highway autonomy, and they're going to introduce new capabilities." They aren't being specific enough on what that is, and I'm going, yeah, 2028, guys. Rivian's doing this now. Tesla's been doing it forever, and so that gap is just widening, right? And I think now, how big can Rivian grow? How big can Tesla grow? They also have to build products that people want. Like the Cybertruck is the perfect example. They wanted to build 200,000 a year. They're not selling them because they didn't build the right product for mass market. They have incredible technology. They didn't build the right product. Rivian is kind of in the same boat. They're not building a mass market vehicle right now. The R2 might be that, but I still don't think it has broad enough appeal like what traditional automakers are going to build. Somebody's going to come along that cracks that code that like truly builds a mass market vehicle that most people feel accessible and also has this crazy capability. But I don't think anybody's there yet. But that's what I mean. Like the market is going to be it's kind of going to be these two pods for a while. And by the way, I watched an interview with one of the Scout, head of product, and he said, "Yeah, it's going to be level 2, right? Level 2 plus. That's what they're going to launch on the Scout. So we're not going to get anything beyond on par or beyond what Rivian announced, right?" And he kind of made the comment, "Well, we believe people want to drive our vehicles."
Bold
So
statement, Common.
yeah, I understand. Rivian was very explicit. They said the joint venture that we have done with Volkswagen does not include this new autonomy platform that they are developing, but we are open to expanding any agreements we have or looking at other agreements with other manufacturers. So they're building something cool. They're willing to share it for a price, but that's not what is in the cards today. So we'll see how that evolves. I don't know. Like I said, autonomy is gonna be tough. The other thing that Rivian announced was the in-car assistant, the AI driven assistant. It's like a fully integrated Grok. Like you've got Grok in the Tesla, right, Cody? How does that work for you?
Great. I mean, and they're slowly getting features where you can give instructions to like self-driving and directions through it. So and that's what's nice about the over-the-air updates. It's like as they roll out that tech and feel good to roll it out to mass, like I get it. So it's been great. It's conversational at its core, but then like it's starting to become an actual feature to your driving experience.
Okay. Yeah, and so the big killer app that we saw with the Rivian Assistant was it's fully integrated into the maps navigation functionality, the messaging functionality, which they've traditionally struggled with. And so, you can sit there and have a conversation with the assistant of, hey, I'm going to this destination, find me some restaurants near there. Okay, let's take that list. Let's send it to the guy I'm meeting via text message. And, it does everything, right? So, that that's pretty killer. GM doesn't have that. Tesla doesn't quite have that yet, but I think they will. I think,
Well, and even Android Auto doesn't have that,
that's where it's heading.
right?
No, it doesn't have the full. I think they will get there quickly with Gemini because they're rolling out Gemini into Android Auto. And so it's becoming more integrated, but I'm still not all that impressed with what Gemini does across applications. It feels like it's in its infancy, but I mean, that's the experience that at some point everybody's going to start to expect in their cars. So a lot of fun stuff coming. We touched on Scout a little bit. You think Scout has anything to fear from the Ford announcement?
I don't, just because I don't think Scout from the beginning is really going after the same truck user that Ram and Ford are. Right? The Scout Travelers, it's an adventure truck. It is a full-size truck. It does have some nice towing numbers, but less nice with the Harvester, we think, so far. I think, with the Ram, they've been pretty explicit. They're trying to make a truck for everybody, right? Hardcore truck users, towing, long distance towing, all of that. And I think Ford will try to do the same. And I just don't think Scout is going after that market.
Yeah, it was interesting. You and I were at the Electrify Expo here in Arlington a couple of weeks ago, and Ford had the Lightning sitting there on display, and they had put a bunch of adventure gear on it. They dressed it up with some all terrains and truck rack and rooftop tent. And we kind of thought, man, okay, well, maybe they're thinking they're going to move into that space and they're going to go after that type of buyer. And I'm getting lots of clicks. I can hear a ton of clicks. Are you hearing that?
It's me. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. After I just chastised you for hitting the table.
You did, man. You came after me.
Yeah.
That's too
well,
funny.
I thought, because my microphone is, I thought, somewhat directional, that you wouldn't be able to hear. I'm sorry. Anyway,
It's amateur hour over here on both ends.
Yeah.
All right.
Cody's
But,
internet won't
yeah,
stay
we thought they were going to move
connected.
into that space. We keep losing that guy. He probably went.
Yeah.
Probably went to bed anyway.
And we probably put him to
But
sleep.
no, I think you're right. The Scout is adventure first. The F-150 is going to be the everyman's truck, and try to appeal to as many buyers as possible and do some heavy lifting. I mean, that's going to be a great work truck. It's going to be a great long haul towing truck for people that do that occasionally, pull boats and everything else. So yeah, I think you're right. I don't think Scout's got a lot to worry about there. They're going after a whole new. They're going after a whole new buyer, and they're not even traditional truck buyers. Casey, I was looking through the reservation holders Facebook group, and we've got this running thread where everybody that signs up, which, by the way, a ton of new people have jumped into that group since the LA Auto Show. I mean, it's grown probably 15, 20% now just in the last month. So a ton of people saw the vehicles out on the West Coast, and they're jumping on board. But I started going through that, and they'll tell you what, in that thread, they'll tell you what they own now. And it's Broncos, it's 4Runners, it's Land Cruisers, it's Jeeps. It's exactly kind of who we thought would be interested in the product. And it's cool to kind of see that validation and they're new vehicles. I mean, they're, new Broncos and new 4Runners, and they're already thinking that's going to be better than what I have now. And I'm ready to go grab that. So yeah, not really truck buyers all in all. I don't think we're going to get Cody back, and that's okay. Cause I think we've kind of exhausted the subject tonight on the Ford news. Ford, I guess if there is one leftover piece, is that Ford did reiterate their strategy of coming back, with a new approach to, EVs that they talked about a couple of months ago. They still haven't shown us any products, right, around this mid-sized truck platform and new crossovers and SUVs. No news there. They just said it's coming. And, hopefully we'll hear more about that. But I thought it was interesting. No news on that platform, but we're going to tell you exactly what we're going to do with F-150 in the future with this e-rev, right? So excited to learn more. And look who's back. Cody, you made it. We were just about to wrap, man.
Sick. That's all I wanted to be a part of. I'm just kidding.
Okay, cool.
I'm sorry. Internet probs. Yeah. I'll get it together, boys. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm here though.
Right.
That's the important part.
Yeah. Casey was tapping his fingernails on the table or something. So we've been a little bit of a train wreck all night.
Nothing you can't
But on that note, thanks for
impose.
everybody for watching, man. Please subscribe to the channel, do all those things, and when news hits that's worth talking about, we will jump back on and talk about it. Salute. Awkward wave. Do it. Do it. Do it.